everybody. Happy Monday. Welcome back to our Vision series. Hi, Ted. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited about these topics. So let's sum it up again for everybody if they're joining us for the first time. We're talking about 5 pillars that help build a vision. Last week, we talked about legacy. And then today, we're going to talk about value and time. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
So again, if people missed it, it's just this idea that so many people are floating around and living life, in my opinion, in reverse order, meaning they're going after a title, they're going after goals, and they haven't really done the vision work. And that's been my experience over many years of coaching individuals and teams. It's just, which is why this has been a major thought of mine over the past 18, 24 months, like really starting to hone in. And that's why I said 5 pillars, because it just gives people more of a guideline instead of saying, hey, go create your vision.
Yeah.
It's a really hard thing to do. So we talked about legacy last week, and then this week we'll dive in a little bit to the reason the second pillar is time.
Okay.
And, the premise of this, I'll tell you why I started thinking about this time. I often am coaching somebody, just say somebody. In this case, we're coaching somebody that wants to go start a writing career, right? Or evolve their writing career or their writing business, right? And a lot of times they're just blindly trying to get to the next level or the next paycheck or the next client. And interesting enough that they haven't really considered time and how they spend their time. So oftentimes when creating a vision, you ask people, and writers are very guilty of this. And this, I'm not saying this it's not negative, but why do you want to live the writer's life? I want more freedom. I want more time with my family. That's one element. But as the adage goes, you spend more time at work than anywhere else. And so interesting enough, I sit back and I'm coaching people and I'm like, well, have you considered how you spend your time all day? Like, what do you really want to be doing? Like, right. So I think about real case examples in my life that, I have a salesperson that's just killing it in sales, and they're making the money that they want to make. They love going out and meeting new people. They love going to those lunches. They love the feeling that when they close a deal, it feels great. But they're telling me they aspire to get into a leadership chair. And I'm like, and then I peel it back, I'm like, why? They can't really answer it other than that's the next step. That's the next thing to do. And that's what you got to do. And well, you do know that all the things that you're telling me that you enjoy, that when you get into the leadership seat, you're not going to be spending. It's the same thing that we have to consider as solopreneurs.
Yeah.
And how you build your business around solopreneurs. Now, I'll use myself as a real example. This is true. When I considered my business, when I incorporated 12 years ago, I don't like networking. I don't like marketing. And so there was a certain part of me, I want to spend my time doing this, having deep level conversations, helping people evolve in life and in business and things like that. I do not want to spend time, frankly, building a business and all the things that went into it. So I had made a commitment to myself that I am going to become quickly a referral-based business, or I'm going to go back and get a W-2 job. Because I wasn't going to build something just to build it and make money that was not fulfilling in the space of how I use my time. But I'm not so sure people are considering that as they barrel into a career or the next level job or the solopreneur venture or any of that.
I think another way to also look at it, Ted, is that you can make it another goal to get to a place where you can hire people to do the things that you don't want to do, so that you can spend the time doing the things that you want to do, right?
Well, here's the thing. That is a way to look at it. But again, if I'm talking about myself, I didn't want to manage people anymore. So again, this is good that you're bringing that up, because this is bringing the depth of what I'm trying to articulate to people. You can go, because I will tell you, Jade, I've coached a ton of people that started off as solopreneurs and then built a business. 8 years later, they're miserable. Interesting enough, when we peeled back their P&L, sometimes they could have been making the same money that they were as a solopreneur, but their ego caught them up and said, well, now I have 15 employees. My business is worth 5 million and I'm doing my thing. Guess what? They're not happy. Now, that's not always the case. To your point, there is a counter to that some people go, I have an opportunity to hire the people that I want to hire, have a chance to lead people and to grow up people and have a bigger impact than all that other stuff. For me, I was already an executive. I had already done all that. I wanted to specifically, last year you said intention. My intention every day wants to be focused on this. Right. And so this is this idea. I'm glad you paused and said that but this is what we're urging people to do. When you're creating your vision, I do want you, when under the umbrella of time, I want you to think about how you want to spend your time. How do you want to, outside of work? That's a very important question. But as I started thinking about time and coaching people in the space of vision around this, I want people to do deep level thinking about how they want to spend their time at work. And does it line up with what you want to do? Like, so you could take the leadership example, the sales example. You could take somebody that's like right now, and I'm being honest about this. This is a very real thing for people. There's people job hopping because they want to work fully virtual. Well, I'm challenging those people. Last year, you told me that you were social, and now you just want to take a job where you're behind a screen all day from home. Does that really line up with who you are and what you want out of it, how you want to spend your time?
I think a really good exercise, and I've done this before and I've mentioned this in many places, is when you write down your like perfect day. And I'm not talking about like being on the beach in Bali.
Yeah.
I'm talking about like a regular day. You write down exactly from when you wake up until you go to bed, details of like how you spend your morning, what you're doing, how you're interacting, who are you interacting with, and you just write down that perfect picture. I think if you back into it like that, sometimes it's very clear then, like you said, if you're not putting in that vision, checking in with my employees or calling my accountant or whatever it is, right? Because that's not what you want to be doing. So I think that is
even the accountant thing you talked about, that's a big one. Like, I don't want to spend my day in numbers and doing all things. So I outsource that. I do have an accountant that I literally don't do any finance. I talk to him and I find out what's going on. But like, again, these are all things that you have to consider when really building this, because we talk about fulfillment and prosperity. I want both of those things for people. And when considering your time, I want you really to slow down and consider how you want to spend your time as you're building this writing career, as you're building this solopreneur world that you're trying to create. So
we talked about this before. A few focused hours will get you as far as like 6 or 7, like a day that you're just spreading over, like mindlessly going through.
It's true. It's true.
So the other one, Ted, value. Where does value fit in with time?
Well, the value supports the time. And the reason I bucket these two together often when I'm speaking to these two is because I will tell you that, again, so many people have not really rooted themselves in living a value-based life and building a value-based career. And so the way I frame up values, like I always say, if I asked a room full of people, what do you value the most? 90% of the people are going to go family right out of the gate, right? Now, and then I peel that back and there is the value, really the family and all that, but that's not the main point here. The main point here is that the way I look at values is just two things. It's what's most important to you and what lights you up, right? Like what really like makes you happy. And so when you think about values, I always urge people to go Google a list of values and start looking them and considering. What you'll see is that it goes so much further than just saying family, right? Do you value creativity? Do you value flexibility? Do you value adventure? Do you value laughter? Like all these different things. And then what are going to be your 4 or 5 cornerstone values? Then when you look at those values next to time, am I going to create a life that I'm spending time that these values are going to be able to be lived out daily, right? So again, the easy thing for me to point out is all too often I coach people that say, hey, I value adventure, but they work a job that's 16 hours a day. They haven't been on a vacation for 2 years. And I'm like, no wonder you feel like crap. One of your core values is adventure, and you're not creating any space in your life for adventure, right? Or look, your core value could be wealth, and you could have deep level reasons why it's wealth. And yet you chose a niche that's not going to provide that for you. And then this is where it gets complicated and you have to have all this. But does that mean that you're going to spend time doing things that you don't want to do just to go off with? So now all of a sudden this balancing act, and this is where I say vision is not really an easy thing. It's not like I'll sit down on a Saturday afternoon on a beach in Bali, like you said, and just write about a vision statement. There's complexity to creating a vision where you're going to find these balance. And there's always going to be a give and take.
Yes.
Like of course, you're going to have to spend some time doing things that you don't like to do, building a solopreneur, world. Mm-hmm. But I want you to start thinking about the balance of all these different things, because otherwise we're just chasing what's right in front of us and doing. I don't want to belabor the point, but the reason I put values and times together is because I think they're hand in hand. If you root yourself in values, it should dictate how you spend your time. How you spend your time has to be feeding the things that you say are most important to you or that light you up.
Yeah. And if you're not, then now it's the time to make the time for that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So today's homework is to map out how you want to be spending your time and map out what your values are to see how that ties together. And if it's not, the adjustments you need to be making to have those things feed into each other. And then next week, Ted, we'll get into the pillar, which is this is a mammoth pillar, and that is money.
Yeah. Can I make one more thing? Because
of course.
I said just how you want to spend their time. I also want everybody to consider, what are your biggest gifts, and are you spending time where you're going to have the biggest impact? Going back to the legacy part, like, I have plenty of insecurities, but I care about people immensely. And I think my gift is to be with people and help people again. So I want people to be considering, like, what are you really good at? And are you spending enough time in those spaces? So there's want, and there's also like, man, how are you going to have the biggest impact and maximize your earning potential, et cetera, et cetera? It's by leveraging the stuff that you want to do and care about and are really freaking good at. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I just want to add that little.
Yeah, a lot of introspective work to find it out,
Yeah.
And ask around you if you're not sure. I bet you people will tell you real quick.
Good point. People that care about you will. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Okay, Ted, we will see everybody next week to talk about money. Bye, everyone.